You're listening to Phone Booth Fighting, your weekly source for mixed martial arts talk and talk of the world beyond, with myself, Richard Hunter, and the two-time UFC heavyweight champion, Frank Mir. Now, I pretty much say that every week when we start the show, Frank, but this week, well, for the first time, because I couldn't technically say it in the past and be truthful, you're listening to the number 6 ranked podcast on iTunes Top 10 Sports Podcasts. So how about a big hand for us?
Yeah.
Huh? And to celebrate, I told you we're going to have a little celebration. You said you wanted me to bring you a guest. You wanted me to come strong with a guest. I said, all right, what do you want? You said, bring us a UFC champion. I said, all right. So it gives me a list to choose from, an elite group of people. And you said, no, I don't want it to just be a champion. I want it to be arguably the best pound-for-pound champion in the UFC. And I was like, now you're giving me a choice of like 2 guys. And then that wasn't enough. You said, no, I want it to be arguably the best pound-for-pound champion and somebody who also, in their spare time, is a master of the Twitch universe. And that only brought up one name. And it's Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson who joins us. Hey, Mighty Mouse, how you doing, man?
No good, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, congratulations are in order to you for what happened Saturday night. I was lucky enough to be cage side there for your second first-round finish in the UFC. You defeated the previously undefeated Henry Cejudo in pretty spectacular fashion. So let's start there. How'd you think about the fight, the way it played out? You know, a lot of people, while still picking you, thought that Cejudo might be a guy to, give you a little bit more of a challenge than maybe you've had from some fighters in the past. Was that what you were expecting, or did it play out just like you thought it would?
Yeah, it was a great fight between me and Henry Cejudo. Every single person I fought in the past, my college defenses, they all bring different challenges. We knew Henry Cejudo was a great wrestler, given he's a fact gold medalist. And other than that, we just went out there and fought, and it worked out to my favor.
Was there anything that surprised you about Henry? He mentioned in the post-fight press conference that he thought he might have a chance of, not a chance. He said he really felt like he was going to dominate you in the clinch, that he would be heavy in the clinch, and it was actually when you closed the gap that you finished him. Was there anything that surprised you about him come fight night?
No, not at all. Like I said, he's a good wrestler. I knew if he was going to take me down, or then from that inside trip. So I'm the type of fighter that, everybody's like, oh, don't wait, make sure you work your takedown defense, make sure you do this and this. And I'm like, you guys are training, speaking of fear. You're scared to be taken down. I was like, dude, what are you going to do? You're going to take me down, and what are you going to do, push me in the face? I'm not worried about that. So,
yeah.
I wanted to close the distance, get my hands on him, get him in my clinch, and then shoot and work from there.
Where do you think this ranks on your list of wins? We're at are we at 10 now in the UFC? I'm trying to think of where we're. What number is this for you? You've been keeping track. Is it 9 or 10?
I think it's 9 or 10. I'm not keeping track.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll look it up for you. I should have been armed with that stat. I'll look it up for you. But I'm thinking about what was kind of at stake in terms of the big stage. I mean, you've headlined pay-per-views before. You're notorious for being the guy who has to step up short notice whenever a main event is fallen out that maybe you were the co-headliner on. And then this one, of course, John Jones stayed on the card, but it was a late-minute replacement opponent with OSP. So, especially with Cormier being out, I think a lot of people were looking at the card going, okay, well, this is going to be the fight, Johnson and Cejudo. So given the magnitude of the stage that you were on, where do you think this ranks in terms of your octagon victories?
It's definitely up there. I mean, take on an opponent like that, especially who's undefeated, who's never suffered defeat or suffered, getting worked in his realm, especially when he thought he was going to be more dominant. I think it's up there. But all my top defenses are up there because they're all great.
I have a question for you. Going back to what you said earlier, you talked about, everybody and myself included, when you prepare for fights, you prepare for what the other guy is doing well, and you work out game plans. And of course, you stated you were aware of it, but it seems like you keep a very razor sharp mental focus on sticking to what you do well also, and not being distracted, being aware of what the other guy does, but not being distracted by it. How is it that you keep your mind so focused at the task at hand and not get leered off by the fact of what the other guy does so well?
I try not to focus on what they do, but if I'm sitting there and I'm in an octagon and I've seen so many other fighters focus on what the other opponent does so well, and then they almost forget about their game or forget about their fighting. And I feel if I just go in there and do my thing and not what the opponent's going to do, then my game's going to flourish. My game's going to give their game problems because I believe I'm a well-rounded fighter and I can fight anywhere. So, that was a big, his strongest area I thought was his clinch. And if you put somebody there that get comfortable, and you always want to put people when they're uncomfortable.
Do you ever find at times your mind? Do you ever find at times your mind drifts? It's hard to stay. You ever sit there and the heebie-jeebies or whatever, you start worrying about. Henry Cejudo, for example, being a gold medalist, Olympic champion in the clinch, and you were able to stay so focused at what you could do well there and not being drifted. Did it ever at times? Did your mind ever stray away? And then do you have any kind of system that you bring it back, or you just are able to shut out that outside noise?
I shut it off. I shut it off. I fought guys who supposedly are way better strikers, who have way more power than I do, and I stay there just because I feel it opens so much more stuff open. It opens way more things, and it just seems to work for me. And I just think that's what you get for being such a well-rounded fighter and being able to fight anywhere.
Demetrious, let's talk about what's next for you, because I heard Dana White talking away Saturday night at that post-fight press conference that I got to say I've never heard him talk, even when it came to greats like Anderson Silva. When we in the media would say, "Well, gosh, who's left for him to fight?" He'd say, "Well, we're trust me, there's contenders here, there's contenders there." But it seemed like Saturday night with you, not only was there talk of, are you going to do a super fight, move up and fight Dominic Cruz, but they're just, I'm reading between the lines, but it just seemed like there was maybe a little bit of exasperation with Dana in terms of, I don't exactly know what we're going to do with this guy next in the flyweight division anyway. So let me ask you about the super fight first. I know you'd probably like to avenge that loss, especially now that Cruz is the bantamweight champion. So how realistic of a possibility is that for you? And if so, how soon could it happen?
It all depends. Dominic Cruz has this thing going on at bantamweight. He got a lot of great contenders out there. With TJ, Arnold Sterling, Uriah Faber, Thomas Almeida, Cody Gambrandt. So he's got a list of full guys to go on. So with me, I beat everybody in my division so far. But who knows? Who knows what's next? I know for me, I'm just staying focused on staying healthy, keep on continuing to learn, and get back in the gym.
Do you see more of a situation that right now you keep just doing what your job is as the 25-pound champ of the world, extend your victories, keep putting yourself inside the history books, and maybe that's something that, like we see in boxing, where you have two guys at two different weight classes, but towards the end of their careers, then they might make that jump up to make that super fight. Because it seems like after those super fights, what's left? What happens afterwards?
Exactly. What does happen afterwards? And that's one of the things that keep in the back of my mind. But I think if I go into a super fight, I think it'll give UFC time to find the next best thing or the next contender for the flyweight division. You think about it, I'm just as active as the contenders are in the flyweight division. So I'm putting in work as a champion. But I'm always up. I'm up for going to super fight. The money's right and everything makes sense.
Yeah, no one's doubting that you'll be able to fight anybody anywhere. That's just the type of person you are. Just it seems like it's to your benefit right now just to keep putting victory after victory, eclipsing record after record, and just that way just really putting your stamp on the fact that you are one of the best fighters in the world ever to step into the octagon.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to keep on doing it. That's my plan. But UFC and the fans always want, so they're like, we don't care about you fighting at flyweight. We want to see you fight at down. We want to see you fight 35. I'm like, dude, we're weighing at 137 this morning. Fly it.
Yeah, that's something too that not to diminish your abilities. Obviously, pound for pound, you're right there in argument with anybody's list. There's no way that anybody's not going to take you into consideration for one of the best right now in the world. But guys don't realize when you go to college, guys, there's a 5-pound weight class jump between weight classes. You go on boxing, sometimes it's 3, 4, 5 pounds between weight classes. Here in the UFC, they'd be asking you to step up and fight 10 pounds heavier than what your natural weight would be to fight at. That's a tall list to ask of anybody. I think it just takes away from it, looking at what you're doing as your dominance, and just let the guy just be the champion at 25 and keep dominating, and stop talking maybe about trying to move him up and just look to to cause just entertainment.
Yeah, you said it. You said it, Frank. I totally agree with you, brother.
Well, Demetrious, what do you make right now of the decision by the UFC to they very abruptly canceled the flyweight season of the Ultimate Fighter? They had open workouts planned, and I'd gotten the press release saying, "Hey, media, come be at this location at this time." I mean, everything was kind of all set, and then it was just sort of abruptly canceled. No official explanation has been given of that, but given the fact that what was going to be on the line as the prize was that you would get a title shot against Demetrious Johnson. That's how much he's cleaned out the division, is they were going to have a game show to figure out who was going to be the next title challenger, and then it was abruptly canceled. Do you take that as any kind of concern for the future of the division, Demetrious?
No, not at all. I think the UFC, they ran into like a summer block possibly to figure out what they're going to do next, and they might have pulled it. And they might want to see how this fight would have played out, because who knows? I probably could have lost on Saturday against Cejudo. Then I'm like, dude, this opens up so many things. We need to do the rematch with Johnson, or we need to do the fight with Joseph Benavidez, because those two don't like each other. Shoot, who knows? John Dotson came back down. I think they wanted to see what happened, what played out, April 23rd, that night, UFC 187, to see what they would take forward, what direction they would take with this fighter division. So I won, and I think I'm very marketable. I'm still building my brand in different areas, not in different areas in the special but different areas in the world. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure they'll call something else.
Well, it's certainly they've got to give you a chance to break that all-time title defense record that Anderson Silva holds. I mean, that's criminal if they don't give you a chance to do that. Even if you are moving up or you come back down or whatever, maybe you're two-weight class champion, that will remain to be seen. All right, Demetrious, just a couple more questions for you. First, I want to ask you, and it's kind of for Frank's benefit too, because he's here. We do the show each and every week here at stately Mirror Manor in suburban Las Vegas. And it's many a time that I get all the gear set up, and then I might have to wait a few minutes because Frank is gaming on his Xbox or PlayStation or whatever. And I know you are the MMA king of Twitch. So explain that to Frank. I mean, Frank knows a little bit about it, but do we need to set up a Twitch channel for Frank? Is that a good idea?
Well, if Frank wants to interact with his fans while playing video games, absolutely. I mean, Twitch is a great platform I use it for me to interact with my fans, to let them see a different personality from me, because the only time they get to see my true personality is when I'm actually fighting, and that's just me going out there, not, talking to the crowd, just going out there and throwing hands, throwing knees, and just trying to destroy my opponent. So with Twitch, it's a great atmosphere, depending on how you build your channel, to hang out with your fans, and I love it, and if Frank wants to, give the tips on how to do it, just hit me up.
Yeah.
Okay.
It kind of goes into then the question I wanted to ask you. I, for one, start off with I'm very happy that you've stayed true to yourself, that you haven't tried to create any kind of persona that's outside of who you are. You a lot of times let your actions speak for themselves inside the octagon, and that's pretty much the champion that you have embodied and represented. Has there been any temptation, though, for people to sit there and go, well, there are guys that are more colorful, certainly less successful in the octagon than you are, but they get more attention at times. Is there times that you feel of crossing over?
I feel that the way I'm going about doing it is the best way I feel comfortable doing this way, because I'm not trying to portray somebody that I'm not. And I think with me just being, a class act guy, a guy who likes to play video games, who likes to goof off outside of the cage, I think that's the perfect way. That way, if I was being a fake guy, running my mouth, trying to get all this attention, doing things here and there, and then when I wanted to turn that act off, people were like, whoa, wait, who are you again?
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. See, I think Demetrious is one of the most genuine guys in the UFC.
Absolutely.
I think if he tried to front like that, it would be like, if he could get on TMZ for getting arrested, it'd be like for jaywalking or something. We'd all look at it and go, oh, see, he meant to do that. He did that on purpose. This is an act. Yeah, I don't buy this. Okay, so one more for you, Demetrious. I've actually been waiting to create this little think tank here because Demetrious, a few months back, I heard him talk about I think it was in studio with me, and he brought this idea up, and it really got my wheels turning. I heard Demetrious, Frank, say that he wanted to, maybe after he's retired, diversify his investments by opening up a strip club called Chicken Strips, right? Okay. Now, Chicken Strips, go ahead and explain the concept before we move
Please
further.
do.
Explain because I don't know if you know this, Demetrious, but Frank, before, even while he was still fighting in the UFC, was head of security at the Spearmint Rhino here in Las Vegas, so he knows how to run a top-notch strip club. So tell him the concept of Chicken Strips.
Yeah, so basically the concept of Chicken Strips was something I wanted to do when I was in high school, and I wanted to, I was having fun with it, and I needed to do a final project, so I said, I'll make a strip club. Basically, it's the first strip club ever where you get all you can eat chicken strips, didn't work out the price, and you get lap dance and stuff. But yeah, that's as far as it got. It was just, a thought, and I remember brought it up. I was like, what were you going to do? And I was like, well, what? In high school, did architecture drawing.
Mm-hmm. So he even had like a little scale model of it.
No, that's good because if he ever does open it up, I know to go ahead and invest in baby wipes.
For the grease.
The girls are going to definitely need somebody in the back because lap dances and chicken fingers, I'm seeing a lot of greasy derrieres.
Yeah, and you know what? You could call it said the VIP room, it could be like the deep fryer.
Or you go up to a guy and go, hey, man, were you touching that girl? You're like, no. And you look over and you're like, dude, she has hot sauce. Come on, buddy. The handprint's right there.
All right. Now, I pitched Demetrious another idea off of this one, and I'm not sure what kind of I'm not sure what he thought about it. So I'm going to get your thoughts here, Frank. I suggested an idea. Maybe you launch Chicken Strips first. You see how successful it is. Then he opens another niche club.
Oh, no. Are you going to go vegan with this?
No, not at all. I'm a vegan, Demetrious, so he always knows I got an agenda. No, it's not that. I suggested he open a strip club called Fly Strips. Okay, and that's a strip club where he guarantees that every dancer weighs in under 125 pounds.
Yeah, but you got fetishes. I got to tell you.
It's the same thing he said. It's the same thing. He shot my idea down the same damn way.
You'd be surprised how many times I've walked a girl over to a customer who I, in my opinion, think she's a 10.
Yeah.
And like, nah. And then, the girl that finally I'm like just looking around. I'm like, oh, you come here.
Yeah.
You're not doing nothing, Just put your glass eye in and, strap on your prosthetic leg. And the guy's like, yes, that's what I wanted. I'm like, serious? This is what you want? Like, I'm looking at the girl. I'm like looking at the guy. I'm like, all right, man. Hey, it's your money. You spend it how you like.
All right. Well, who am I to say? I'm going to take Frank's expert opinion here, Demetrious. Sounds like you've got something going with Chicken Strips.
Yeah. But I do like the fly strips. I guarantee everyone will weigh under 125 pounds. I can patent that and run with it. I like it.
I just like being able to market off of what made you the greatest. It's that flyweight top. Plus, think of the logo. I mean, you'd have like a real nasty.
It's a great concept.
You could have like one of those real nasty fly strips instead of the stripper pole.
Will the girls be allowed to use IV bags after their weight checks?
Oh, no, that's disgusting. No, that's just disgusting.
You're right. Frank just took it too far, Demetrious. I'm sorry. He just crossed over a line there. All right, man. Listen, hey, we really enjoyed the time, and I appreciate you getting on with us so late here and everything. We've been wanting to get you on the show for a long time. We talk a lot about you, and we both think you're just one of the greatest fighters going.
Absolutely.
So keep us posted, man. When we kind of get if you don't mind, come back on with us whenever we get the next fight made or something like that. We'd love to preview that with you.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I saw you guys. It took so damn long. There's so much stuff going on, but I'm really glad that we were able to make it happen.
Absolutely. Maybe next time you're out, we'll get it together in person. Let's tell everybody how they can find you. I want to make sure they know not only the usual social media stuff like Twitter and Instagram and all that, but explain to everybody how they can find you on Twitch if they're a gamer and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys find me on Twitch. Just go to twitch.tv/mindingofufc 125 and hit that follow button. You get all notifications when I go live.
Play some games with him. All right, Demetrious. Hey, great talking to you, man. Thanks again for the time tonight, okay?
Absolutely, guys. Thank you, Frank and Richard. Have a good night.
Oh, man. You too, man. Thanks.
So there goes Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson. I like that guy, Frank.
I do too.
I do. I think he's, you know what? If you're not enjoying what he's doing, you're really missing out. I mean, you know, and I think it's kind of borderline inexcusable anymore because, you know, there used to be a time where the sport was new enough that, okay, yeah, you're not going to get very many people that are educated fans, but there's just not as much of an excuse to be completely uneducated.
Not at all. Anymore. And as they're commentating, they're breaking down what he's doing. You're seeing it, and it's explained, and he's doing it over and over again, fight after fight. You know, the other thing too that bugs me when I hear people say that, well, you know, they're just the size of the guys. I'm like, what does it matter? They're the same. They're evenly matched, and it's technique for technique, slipping a shot, taking it down, setting up moves. It's martial arts, you know.
Well, you know, my idea for Demetrious Johnson to really put himself over is with a reality show where it's called something like Demetrious Johnson Bar Fights. And he just goes into some you know, biker bar where, you know, it's filled full of people who the uneducated fan looks at and goes, well, that's a man. That's a bigger guy, you know. Right. And then watch Demetrious.
Local bodybuilding gym.
Yeah. And then just watch Demetrious wipe the floor with him, you know, and I think you get a little respect that way. Anyway, fun to have him on. I mentioned at the top of the show what hadn't really gotten a chance because we had him right on off the bat. Did I blow your mind when I told you about our iTunes stats today?
I did. I was really shocked when I saw the text come in actually earlier today when you screenshot and sent it to me.
I didn't think anybody was listening. Now we're really going to have to pay attention to this thing. Damn it.
Well, I have to watch what I'm saying a little bit more.
No, you know what I was thinking? This is the first time in your life that you've been a higher ranked podcaster than you are a UFC fighter.
This is true.
You're number 10 in the heavyweight division, and you're number 6 on the iTunes list.
There you go.
So, wouldn't it be weird if, like, you know, decades and decades from now, that's what you became known for? People say Frank Mir, and they'll go, "Oh, the podcaster?" Right. They'll be like, "Yeah, very successful podcast." Did you know he also was a mixed martial arts fighter? What? Yeah. We got some news today. The UFC 200 main event has been announced, and no, it doesn't have anything to do with Conor McGregor, at least for right now. We'll get into that momentarily. I do want to tell everybody, though, that we're Snapchatting the show tonight. In fact, it's the first ever girlfriend takeover of our phone booth fight Snapchat here on the show. Have you noticed that there's all these takeovers going on? This is a new term. It's like the UFC. The UFC just had a takeover of Good Morning America. It's a new buzzword to use. I just drove by the Tropicana the other day here in Vegas and saw that 50 Cent was taking over the pool on Saturday. It's like it seems to be a hipper phrase for appearance. You know, it's like, you know, Team Alpha Males, the takeover of the UFC's Twitter feed or whatever. So anyway, that's a word we're co-opting here. So I let my girlfriend run the Snapchat takeover tonight. So if you're new to our Snapchat, we just launched it last week for the big road trip to LA. Our username is Phone Booth Fight on Snapchat. Check us out at Phone Booth Fight. So Jennifer's handling Snapchat for us. That is as soon as she charges up her phone. She showed up to her first takeover gig with a dead iPhone. So we gotta charge it up.
Not exactly. I don't think she was actually knowing what she was walking into, though.
Well, she knew. We had a production meeting. She knew. Anyway.
What happened to you guys' production meetings?
Well, apparently one of us wasn't paying attention. I don't know. We'll get into that later. The fight is official between Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier. Frank, it's going to take place at UFC 200, July 9th at the brand new T-Mobile Arena here in Las Vegas. Jon Jones is opened as a 3-1 favorite over Daniel Cormier in their rematch. He defeated Jon Jones, of course, famously the first time around. And it was DC that ended up being the light heavyweight champion after Jones was stripped of his title following his outside the octagon troubles, and DC fought Anthony Rumble Johnson for the vacated title. DC got that belt, and now it's actually Jon Jones who is going to be hoping to hear and new as opposed to and still, although he is the interim UFC heavyweight champion. So I guess what they're really doing is just unifying the title.
Undisputed.
And now. Yeah, and now. Maybe it's going to be and now. Undisputed. Well, you still wouldn't know, would you? For the winner. And now.
Right.
Undisputed. Yeah. I guess you're not going to know until they announce the first name of the winner. Anyway, that's going to be UFC 200.
I have a feeling we'll know before that.
Yeah, maybe we will. Conor McGregor is out, and you and I were talking on the show last week. Actually, the ride home from LA in the car about what we thought might be up with Conor McGregor, and I think you and I both agreed at the time that. Maybe there's still room for him. I mean, crazy as it sounds, this is the most stacked card in the history of UFC events, but there's 10 fights on it, which means there's room for a couple of more. Do you think there might still be a possibility that they let Conor on this card, even though Dana's swearing up and down they won't?
Well, I told you, my theory is it depends on how ticket sales go. We're doing right now the media tour, and I think at the end of the week the tickets will go on sale, or have they yet?
I think they're about to.
Yeah. I saw the email, the release that they're going on sale this week.
Yep.
So I think that after the press tour with Daniel Cormier and John and and everybody else that's on the card, they're just going to pay attention to see how it's going. And if it needs an adrenaline boost, that EpiPen to the thigh, then I feel that's Conor McGregor.
I think that's I think that's a good theory. I mean, if Dana White were here, he'd be telling us to get lost with that. But I think that does make some sense. And you know what? This card it's a victim of its own circumstances. Just because Conor McGregor was originally announced for it and now he's not. If he were not announced for this card and if there was no expectation of having him on this card, you would look at it and think this is the most awesome thing I've ever seen the UFC do.
Absolutely.
You agree with that?
It kind of works in the reverse of how Jen, my Jen,
yeah,
she'll come home and she'll purchase something and I'll look at it and go, how much? She's like, $3,000. I'm like, oh, are you serious? She says, no, $2,000. I'm like, really? She says, no, it's only $1,000. I'm like, oh, okay. And I sat there and I'm like, dude, you just kind of Jedi mind tricked me right there.
Yeah.
And this is a situation where it's actually the quite reverse, where you had Conor McGregor, trying to redeem his, avenge his loss to Nate Diaz. We were going to have 10 weeks of buildup and sound bites between these two leading up to it, and now we don't. And so I think that's what you're saying is, a victim of the fact that we were expecting one thing that was of such a high caliber, and not that any of the fights are any less caliber, if not even more, as far as what they actually represent as the caliber of fighters that are walking into the octagon. But as far as the media attention, really no one has that X factor, just like how Conor and Ronda has right now going into currently in the sport.
Well, let's not forget that Daniel Cormier and John Jones know how to sell a fight. And even though we've already seen it once, the animosity between those two has not waned at all. We're going to hear it all over again. Daniel Cormier may throw a shoe again.
No, they generally dislike each other,
yep.
And they both have titles.
Yep.
I mean, if Conor didn't exist in this universe, I'd tell you that this is the biggest thing they could possibly put together.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest grudge match right now I can imagine going into to UFC 200. But there's just no way that I guarantee you right now, if we split the a press conference in half and we had Conor and Nate on one side and you had John and DC on the other, come on, where would you be sitting?
Well, the numbers played that out. They did the press conference from Madison Square Garden yesterday with John Jones and Daniel Cormier. Did you hear any of that, by the way?
No, I didn't pay attention.
We probably ought to play a little bit of that while we're doing the show. But he. I
guess this would be my job more now. You're gonna have to start sending me stuff to pay attention to.
Yeah. Welcome to my world. John Jones and Daniel Cormier squared off in typical fashion yesterday at Madison Square Garden and did their trash talking. But early indications were that it was nowhere near the presence that they had when Conor McGregor's last press conference took place, in terms of the numbers, in terms of the number of people that were watching.
I mean, that's a great indicator. I mean, I think most people that run a business, they have a metric on on viewership and who's clicking on buttons and who's viewing, and that in itself. I mean, you can sit there and argue back and forth all you want, but it's hard to deny the absoluteness of numbers. Yeah.
Well, we take a look at this card, how stacked and how deep this thing is. First of all, even if it just stays, Dana said they're still working on it, so they're going to add a couple of fights. It's just a question of, are they closer to the bottom of the card or closer to the top?
Well, the fact that they haven't added the 2 more, I mean, not that guys don't pull out, but I would hate that I think they're leaving room. I think that's already kind of a sign.
Yeah, they probably need a little insurance policy fight.
Well, I mean, could you imagine? I mean, if you're a younger guy, you're booked in your build to go ahead and fight on UFC 200. Even if you're the very first fight of the night, but that's still that kind of recognition, in your career is going to be, irreplaceable. And then all of a sudden, they got to put Conor gets as a late placement with Nate, and now they bump you.
So actually, the UFC 200 tickets go on sale today as we air. This is going to post on Friday. We're sitting here Thursday evening in Frank's backyard doing the podcast. So that's the answer to that question. You want to hear some highlights from the press conference? You want to see if John Jones and Daniel Cormier have mended fences a little, maybe have become friendly? Let's give a listen here, Frank.
Turn the other cheek.
You guys ready to see DC get his ass whooped again? Oh, yeah, we're going to send him back and send him crying. It's going to be a good one.
Hey, listen, we all saw your bum ass fighting on Saturday. You show up like that, I'm going to beat that ass.
All right.
I saw you struggling with Ovid St. Preux. You show up like that, bum, I'm going to whip that ass.
Hey.
I'm going to whip that ass, bum.
I'll wait.
You're a bum.
Hey, so I'm a bum. I'm a bum that took your undefeated record.
Yeah, you beat me. But you're a bum. I saw you last week, bum. I watched you.
DC should have a lot of confidence, outside of me, he's the next best thing. You know what I mean? He can beat these other guys. He can't beat me. DC, I don't believe greatness is a coincidence, and I don't believe DC's great. If he was great, he would have beat Cael Sanderson in college. If he was great, he would have made weight at the Olympics. If he was great, he would have beat me the first time. You know what I mean? I've never lost a fight. So, let him be confident. He can beat these other guys all day. He's not beating me.
I'm not changing anything. I'm going right at his ass. I'm not changing nothing. I will tell him right now. Last time I didn't take John down as many times as I wanted to. This time, they're going to say fight. I'm going right over there to take him down. You guys
didn't take me down at all.
I'm going to hold his ass down for 25 minutes. I'm going to take him down and hold him down for 25 minutes.
Sean?
Hey.
Your response to that?
DC's been lying to you guys for a long time now.
I'm lying.
Hey, listen.
I'm lying.
DC told you guys, and I quote, I'll take John Jones down 10 times out of 10 times if I want to take him down.
I said 100.
Right?
Don't quote wrong.
So far, we're 5-0.
You didn't take me down 5 times.
I've taken you down 5 times.
You took me down 3 times.
Listen, last time I foot swept you, held my hand on your head like you're my bitch.
Hey, what about I threw your punk ass down? Hey, John, that is your highlight. I slipped at the end of the round.
Hey, and this guy's supposed to be the Olympian.
I told everybody I was going to beat Hall.
There you go. Do you think that there is there's first of all, I think Daniel Cormier is one of the best analysts going. It's not like he has a hard time stringing a sentence together.
Not at all.
But when it comes to the trash talking, he is either respectful of a line that he doesn't want to cross, or he's missing a golden opportunity. Because I would fare far worse in a fight with John Jones and Daniel Cormier would, but I'm kind of thinking I might be able to do a better job of causing emotional hurt.
I would have to go with her on that, but I think that there's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah.
I think it goes twofolds. One, a lot of times talking trash before a fight, as a fighter, that's scary because you're going to have to eat those words afterwards.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before. That's something you've always been conscientious
of. Yeah, it's like, guys say stuff. It's like, so there's a part of me that actually respects the bravado of a guy like a Dominic Cruz. Yeah. I think is phenomenal at it. He sits there and just, that conference or that sit down he had that one time I was watching with him.
TJ Dillashaw
was just unreal.
It was like a deconstruction.
Oh, man. Yeah. But had he lost the fight,
yeah,
and he knows that as he's saying it, Dominic's an extraordinarily intelligent guy.
Yeah.
So as he goes into that mode, getting ready to go to that route, he knows that it means that, the price of getting his ass whipped is only going to be that much higher.
Yeah.
So it takes some, it takes guts sometimes to go ahead and do that. Then I think the other thing that you just said there too is there might be a little bit, when you said the line, they would say, poking the bear.
Yeah.
There might be a little bit to that, to where, he's out there, he has to fight him, but at the same time, it almost sounds like there's that apprehension can be maybe, considered fear.
Yeah.
But and rightfully so. The matchup, that's sometimes the shitty part about being a smart fighter is that we can do the math. And then I can sit there and look at the guy across me and go, okay, statistically, I'm going to have a hard time. Mm-hmm. His reach, speed, strength, experience, whatever. We can go across the board on what gives a guy advantages. And you're looking, man, I'm going to have a hard time with this one, And then you have to be able to kind of be like a great white shark and just roll your eyes back and just pick out the best calculation that you can go, but you just have to go swinging, And then now it's time just to jump into it. And, because, the fight necessarily isn't won before the fight goes. A fight's a fight. Like they say, the old adage goes, anything can happen. And so, I think that Daniel can look at it and go out. Not only can he break down and do the math, that go, okay, John is significantly younger. I think Daniel's older than I am. Mm-hmm. John's 28 years old, and so there's almost a 9-year age gap. Now he's a year older than the last time they faced. The reach advantage is still, I think, a thing that gives Daniel a hard time. He had, even in his fight against the guy overseas, I'm sorry.
Cormier?
No. Yeah.
Oh, Alexander Gustafsson.
Gustafsson,
when John
yes.
Jones fought him, yeah.
When you've seen Gustafsson fight even Daniel, the takedowns, I haven't seen Gustafsson take Daniel down one time. Mm-hmm. It seemed like it might give him problems. So you really have a fight that mathematically, I agree with the odds makers opening up at 3-1 difference, because you have a situation where you have the younger guy has, speed and reach, and the reach advantage is just not even comparable.
Yeah.
And if you can get past that reach, you get into the clinch. It showed in their last fight that even with all the wrestling experience that Daniel thought, and he brought over the guy that had beaten him at the former, high-level international wrestling match. So he trained, knowing that'd be a strong suit to put John on his back, and he failed at doing it. And John now has had even more time and more preparation. I think it's a tough match for Daniel. And I think John, even it's trash talking, I think I agree with him that he pretty much, Daniel Cormier, beats everybody else.
Mm-hmm. I thought their first fight was competitive, and maybe a little more competitive than people give it credit for. I don't think there was any question that John Jones won it.
Right.
It was a unanimous decision, rightfully so. As I recall, most people had it 49-46. I thought there was maybe even an argument to make it 48-47. I do remember, though, Daniel Cormier telling me in that post-fight press conference that he took a round off. I'd never heard a fighter admit to that. I'd never heard him put it in those words, even when everybody else in the room knows the obvious. And I can't remember if it was the third or the fourth round, but I remember him telling me he's breaking down round by round. Because I think I asked him, did he think it was closer than the judges had it on the scorecards? And he's going through round by round, and he goes, round 4, I took off, round 5, and nobody really made a big thing out of it at the time, but I thought, I don't think I've ever heard a fighter say that before, acknowledge it.
Yeah. And also, too, I think, in round 3, I think the kicks of John really just threw him off. I think that he took a bad kick to the belly, and it hurt him very badly. I think that it took the life out of him. If you go back and watch the fight, I don't know if he consciously took a round off as much as needed to kind of gather himself not to get finished. No. And then also, too, if you look at also, too, after how that fight ended, there's some mountains that Daniel's going to have to overcome. He looked like a man who was broken mentally after that fight. His head hung down, shoulders down. That's the last experience he had facing John. And that was on a fresh slate going in there. So now you're going to have to fight the same beast again, but with that in your head. You can either rise to the occasion and try to get over it, or is it going to be too much weight on his shoulders and too much pressure?
I tell you what I remember about that night, and you talk about that, about his head being hung low and appearing to have just been broken, was at the post-fight press conference that I was in. Cormier came in, and if I remember correctly, he came in, sat down first. I had started asking him some questions, and did some of the other media members, and he got emotional. He started started choking up and saying, yeah, you just got beaten, but it's okay. He's going to be better. And of course that was, his first loss and all that. And right there, Frank, this is where John Jones does not do himself any favors. All he had to do was just let Daniel Cormier do that at that moment, and you could not have a clearer punctuation on the fact, if you were John Jones, than he had just beaten a guy and potentially broken him, like you said. And he just couldn't help himself. He picked up the mic and said, all right, all you guys who bought those Daniel Cormier T-shirts, take them back now. You wasted your money, And it's like you're redirecting everything right back over.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody is just because you're a phenomenal fighter in the octagon doesn't mean you're linguistics and you can not everybody was on the debate team, man.
Okay. I just know when the guy next to me is digging a hole, I don't try to wrestle the shovel out of his hand.
No, you let people go ahead and hang themselves, right? You're like sitting there, go, man, he's tying the rope, he's putting it around his neck. Yeah. I'm not going to sit there and light the house on fire and catch someone's attention so they might come and save you.
Just tell me when to kick the chair.
Yeah, just to sit there and get a cup of coffee and hang out.
That's right.
I agree with you. I think that that obviously another thing too is I think that I wonder as far as fighting when it gets tough. I think John, that's all he really has. If you think about it, John's not trying to break into any type of commentating. He's not trying to break into broadcasting. I think that he loves to train people. He'll be a part of the gym, but that comes back on to his ability to fight. Yeah. I think Daniel's shown that rightfully so. He's a phenomenal analyst. He is a great martial artist. One of the best in the world, mixed martial artist. He's a light heavyweight champ right now, and really honestly, he's the number 2 by a stretch. He just happens to be born during an era that the number 1 guy that can beat him is there. You've seen it before in different facets of sports and wrestling and boxing where you get a guy who's he had been born any other era or a few years before or later, he would be the champion, but that one guy that can beat him is that champ that's there right then, and that's the case with John Jones.
Well, I'll tell you, Saturday night, being there at the MGM Grand, watching John Jones dominate Ovent St. Preux, and he did dominate him over 5 rounds, that was a little more human-looking John Jones. I mean, it wasn't. I think we were talking about this when we were on our road trip to LA this past weekend because you were out of town. I was just kind of telling you what I saw, and it was like all the tools were there. All the John Jones, the elbows, the oblique kicks, the creativity. It was all there, but minus maybe a certain percentage of the aggression and the pressure. And I know Dana White had said that he thought it was good that John had that fight, and I believe John said that himself. That maybe it made sense.
It sounds like the right thing to say, but I honestly think it's a situation that if I was Greg Jackson, I'm in the locker room, I'm like, all right, well, it's nice that I can see that you can have someone else on your mind and still whoop a top 3 or 4 guy in the world.
You made the point, because
I think that when he walked into that arena, I don't think OSP was ever on his radar. I don't think he ever got zoned in for that fight. I think he went out there. It looked like a sparring match to me. I've sparred with John before. That looks like John sparring. It looks like he's just going out there. As long as you don't do nothing crazy, I'm not going to take you out. We're just going to go ahead and just go through this. I'm going to hit you with the stuff, run through my plethora of techniques, showcase what I can do. But for the most part, if you play nice, I'm not going to take your head off. And, I think a lot of that has to do with I think that he has been mentally focused on the guy that's had his title. I mean, think about it. He beats the guy. The guy goes and has a fight with Anthony Johnson, and now he's the reigning champion. You don't think that a guy that's walked around with the title, the lightest, the youngest light heavyweight champ, you don't think that edges him a little bit? That doesn't kind of anger him?
Yeah.
Someone else has that strap around his waist, that guy who also then is trying to be the guy that can maybe dethrone him and beat him and take down John's legacy.
Yeah. I mean, you were saying that when we were together this weekend that you basically thought that John had sort of fought to the level of his competition.
That it looked like sparring to me.
That if he had fought Daniel Cormier,
or if OSP was capable of putting him in danger, he would have risen to the occasion.
He would have risen to the
occasion. We would have seen a emotion
yeah.
behind his techniques. And that's the difference between, really, if you think about it, what's the difference between sparring and fighting in the octagon. If you watch us train, you see guys train, we train hard, we fight hard. One of the biggest differences is the emotion behind it.
Right.
In fact, somebody can throw the same punch at me, but when I feel the emotion behind it, I'm like, oh, hey, is it that kind of day to day? Are we going at it? It might not be as much harder than it is when he's throwing just the technique,
right?
But it's that intent behind it, that emotion. And that's what I think, everybody saw, and John was just a lack of emotion in the fight.
Well, I think there's plenty of compelling storylines here, and as I said, the tickets are going on sale today as this Phone Booth Fighting episode posts. So the UFC is going to have a chance to see what the ticket sales do, and I don't care if Conor McGregor's on this card or not. There just can't be much of a reason not to buy a ticket for this fight other than not having the money for it. And then even that, I think I would still try to find a way to get together the funds, because listen to this card. Okay, John Jones, Daniel Cormier 2 headlines is the main event. Then you got Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar for the interim 145-pound featherweight title that Conor McGregor holds. This is a rematch. It was a very closely fought Jose Aldo decision the first time around. A lot of people, including myself, thought Frankie Edgar might have pulled out the victory.
I thought that I gave the first 2 rounds to Jose Aldo.
Yeah.
But I thought rounds 3, 4, and 5 went to Frankie Edgar. He just came on, and maybe just came on too late to get the judges to look his way. But I think now, with the confidence he has and knowing what he knows, I think he just comes out fast and hard to begin with, and maybe not so respectful and cautious. There's a difference between respect and a little too much caution. I think he fought a little bit too cautiously the first round or two, and that allowed Jose to do well. And I think now this time he can come out there and really steamroll him and really put on a showcase for why he should be the next fight for Conor McGregor.
That's your second title fight of the night at UFC 200, but not the only other one, because the women's bantamweight title is on the line. Champion Miesha Tate defending against Amanda Nunes. I think that's an excellent fight. Travis Brown taking on Cain Velasquez in a fight that is very likely to have heavyweight title shot implications. Kelvin Gastelum takes on Johnny Hendricks. Derek Brunson takes on Gegard Mousasi. Joe Lozon taking on Diego Sanchez. That's a fun one. Yep. Sage Northcutt taking on Enrique Marin. And do you know that we had to get all the way down to Enrique Marin on this card before I can really come up with a name that is not, maybe doesn't quite belong in the stratosphere of some of the other guys in terms of star power, current ranking, even or legendary history like Diego Sanchez. Let me keep going. Takanori Gomi takes on Jim Miller. Juliana Pena taking on Kat Zingano. I don't know that there are any fighters on. First of all, most of these fighters are top 10 ranked fighters. I just went through 10 fights. Mm-hmm. Most of them are in the top 10. I don't know that any of them would be outside the top 15 except Sage Northcutt and Enrique Marin. I mean, obviously Sage is still a ratings juggernaut, but and I have to look up their rankings. I could be shortchanging them. When have you ever been able to say that about a UFC card?
Never. I mean, pretty much all those fights on their own right headline other cards.
Yes, absolutely. At least fight night cards. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, at least fight night cards.
And there's going to be 2 more, so we'll keep you posted on what's going on with that. We got to get to some Facebook feedback. We've got some comments, Frank, that people wanted to have us share over the air. I will tell you that the Phone Booth Fighting podcast is available each and every week, either in iTunes or on the Stitcher radio platform. You can also get it at phoneboothfighting.com. I know we got a ton of new listeners this week. I know we had a ton of new listeners last week, and we appreciate you guys joining us, subscribing to us, supporting us, and becoming a part of the Phone Booth Fighting family. We promise we're not going to let you down. We're going to bring you quality shows each and every week. And Frank and I love doing this together, and we encourage you to follow us on social media as well, at Phone Booth Fighting on Instagram, at Phone Booth Fight on Twitter and Snapchat. We're Snapchatting right now. I don't know if you noticed that, Frank. It's why my girlfriend has her camera in your face. It's not because she's trying to catch you in the club so she can sell her footage to TMZ. No, it's just for our Snapchat. at Phone Booth Fight. You can follow him on social media, Twitter and Instagram at the Frank Mir, and myself, Twitter and Instagram at Richard Hunter. We also have the Phone Booth Fighting Facebook page, and that's where these comments come from that I'm about to read. Are you ready, Frank, for an international edition of Facebook feedback?
Oh, there you go.
International edition.
Wasn't ready for that.
Here we go. This one comes to us from Brian Wren. Frank. Brian says, "Hi, Richard and Frank. I'm a huge Frank Mir fan. He is my favorite UFC fighter, and I'm a big fan of the podcast. Keep them coming. Also, will Frank be in Vegas for the UFC 200 weekend? As I am from Ireland and have booked a holiday to UFC 200, I would love to get a picture with Frank. Thanks, and all the best from all the way over in Ireland." That's from Brian Wren. And yes, Brian, we're going to do something publicly during UFC 200 Fight Week, some type of public broadcast. We haven't figured it out yet, venue or whatever, but yeah, we should definitely do some type of remote broadcast, let everybody come out and say hi. All right, we go from Ireland to Germany. Ben checks in from over in Germany. Greetings from Germany. I just want to tell you I appreciate all the work you do. Keep it up. I love it. I'm a big fan of Phone Booth Fighting and Frank Mir. That's from Ben in Germany. How about this one? If possible, I hope you can create a YouTube channel and upload the shows. I got the shittiest internet connection in my country and will only be able to download at 144p. Thanks. That is from Akshay Vaswani. And I don't know what country he's in. I emailed him back and said, what third world country are you are you in? Because we need to give you proper credit for going to the trouble to get us. But yes, Akshay, we are going to be doing more stuff on YouTube as well. We probably need to get like a video stream going. Because I noticed when we did Fighter and the Kid this past week, that their YouTube channel alone, Frank, the video you did with them was viewed as of today like over 65,000 times.
Oh, wow.
Which was awesome news for Real Water because you had your Real Water bottle propped up right there in the front. I was proud of you. That was some solid product placement there. Our title sponsor, by the way, on the Phone Booth Fighting Podcast, Get Real at realwater.com. We appreciate their support, keeping us hydrated. All right, moving on with an international edition of Facebook Feedback. Steve Corlew says, Frank, love the podcast, guys. Keep at it. Sell some T-shirts. We'll buy them. Well, I think now that we have a sharp new logo, that this might be the time to crank out some T-shirts. So, Steve, stay tuned. We'll have some designs coming your way. More on that logo in a second. Andrew Murphy checks in from Columbus, Ohio. He says, I love the podcast. I drive a truck, and I'm glad to have another quality show to add to my rotation. I roll with the guys at Ronan Training Center in Columbus, Ohio, which is owned by Luke Zachrich, and he wanted us to give them a shout-out. Well, that's your youngest son's name, Ronan.
Yeah, I picked that. It's a good name. It describes him well.
Yeah, he's got a training center named after him in Columbus, Ohio. We probably didn't even know that now. Well, thanks for checking in, Andrew. We love our truckers. Truckers are great listeners to have if you've got a radio show or a podcast. They are, from my old radio days, the best guys for me, because I did a night show, much like we do. You know, we tape at night. My show was on 5 nights a week, and my best listeners were truckers, cops, because a lot of times they're just sitting in the car waiting to get a call or something like that, so they'd sit and listen to the show.
Okay.
Pizza delivery guys. I had a lot of those.
Pretty much anybody that sits in a vehicle for an extended
Yes,
time.
absolutely, and wanted to listen to me ramble on. So thanks, Andrew. We appreciate our truckers out there. Anyway, thanks, guys, for checking in on phone. Well, here's one question for you, Frank. I'm sorry, I did get to this one. Yeah, a bunch of these weren't questions. They were comments.
No, thank you for everybody that wrote in.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it, all the feedback, and see if we can go through any questions.
Yeah, here's one from James Mager. James wanted to know, Frank, what do you think of Wes Sims today? Do we know much about him today?
It's a guy I had fought in the past.
Right. He turned up on a season of The Ultimate Fighter a couple of years back, but that's kind of haven't seen him in quite a while.
Good guy. I mean,
okay.
I'm not really aware of what he's doing with his career. I mean, honestly, I've been in the octagon a lot of times. I can't keep up tabs on everybody I've ever faced.
Do you think you could ever get to a point, and I don't mean like from brain damage, but just from a long career, do you think you could ever get to a point, there's going to be some guys that you fought in like year 1, year 2, that if you ran into them 20 years later, that you could possibly be like at a cocktail party or something and not immediately recognize them as somebody you fought?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to remember, too, I started when I was 22.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, it was almost 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And so people change, grow a beard, look a little different, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in there quite a few times, maybe a little bit to the brain damage, but also, too, I think, you know, I mean, I think everybody does that. You go to high school with people, and not everybody you're going to remember, even somebody you might have good friends with, you know. It's just part of life, you know. You have kids, married, and just things go on. Trying to hold tabs on everything that's happened throughout my career is not the easiest.
Well, if you have questions that you would like included on questions or comments you'd like included on a future edition of Phone Booth Fighting, please, by all means, post them on the Phone Booth Fighting Facebook page. That's the best place to do it, and we will share them on the air as we get them. All right, so I promised everybody a hooker story from the brothel.
That could be a segue from choking to hooker story?
Let me tell you. You don't know how close to the truth you are.
Well, I know it's auto asphyxiation, autoerotic
asphyxiation.
That's when you do it to yourself.
That is how I have promised to stage your death. Yes, Frank. Yes.
Please cut me down, dude. Just cut me down. Don't leave me like David Carradine. I got kids, man.
As I said to Frank on a previous episode of Phone Booth Fighting, he said, man, if you ever find me in that state, just cut me down. I said, oh, no, I'm stringing you up. That's the kind of friend I am. Yeah.
If I have a heart attack naturally, this mofo says he's going to string me up, pull my pants down, you know what I mean? Like,
yep, and all the right hashtags, too, on the Instagram post. So
go down like a legend.
You were, we've talked before about the fact that I daylight a little bit. I started to say moonlight, but it's more of a day job than anything else.
I wish the fans really, I hope that people really get to meet you and hang out. Like right now, we have a couple beers out, cigars.
Yep.
Not only are you the
I'm not
vegan,
touching any of that,
but you don't. Not even so much a cigar.
Nope.
I'm not talking about. We're not busting out joints. No one's pulling out rails or needles or
Wouldn't
nothing
do
crazy.
Any of that either.
But this guy is so straight edge, and to work in a brothel, it's like it's unbelievable.
I'm the straightest guy you know.
I know you by far. I mean, and I hang out with some pretty nerdy dudes.
Sure.
And by far, you are the straightest guy.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I pride myself on that, and that's why you can trust me to run your brothel. So I put in a certain number of hours every week, handling, regulating, if you will, at a brothel here in Southern Nevada, and we were talking a little bit off the air about the idea of marrying the legal courtesan, because some of the ladies are married. And just kind of came up in conversation. But, Frank,
and I had some great analogies.
You drew an interesting analogy.
I did. Well, marrying a former lady of the night is like going down to the budget rent a car. After they have their cars out there for a couple years that you can rent, you can purchase one. Obviously, it'll be high mileage. It's been abused by quite a few people. And
for example, that's how I got my Prius.
There you go.
I got my Prius when it was about a year old, but that first year had been spent being the loaner car that the dealership gave you. If yours was in for repair, so it had not a lot of miles on it, but for only being a year old, it had more miles than your average new car.
And who knows how bad that car's been abused? Because I, like most people, my car I treat quite nicely. I take it into its scheduled oil changes. I don't.
You take it on vacation. You take it shopping.
I don't really, drive up on
its
curbs.
Anniversary.
My CTS doesn't go four-wheeling. But whenever I rent a car, not that I'm going to destroy it, but I'm definitely not as concerned about that vehicle.
You're of the moment. You don't worry about calling it the next day.
It's all about having fun and using it for my own use. I could care nothing about it. And so
you don't park it in the driveway.
No,
you just
if I leave it outside,
street.
Other people want to spit on it. Hey, I don't care. It's not my car. I'm just
driver's side door open. No big deal.
Yeah, and who knows who's been in there before me, who's going to be there after me. But if you were to buy one of these refurbished vehicles, I can understand that maybe hey. you want to always own a Corvette, and now this is a Corvette past its prime, but it's high mileage, and who knows what's been done in that Corvette before you or what's done to it. But it's within your price range and where you are in your life, that this is your opportunity to have this Corvette. So you get it. And so there's arguments to be made for that. I don't judge. I was born and raised in Vegas, so more than our share of people have worked, nightclubs and adult clubs and whatnot.
Sure. The entertainment industry.
I don't know if I've ever had a friend that married a straight prostitute, but I mean a former prostitute. I mean, okay, hey, all women, not all I should say, but women, and men, they have a history that occurred before you. I guess as long as they can pass an STD test, and it's not going to affect you.
In defense of the ladies at the brothel, when you do it legal like we do, they have passed those. They're tested weekly.
Yes, it's funny because
and
tested a lot more than now. If I were, if one of us were to become single tomorrow and go down to the nightclub and we were to ask some of the ladies that we were to potentially have a one-night stand with, how many of them get regularly tested for diseases?
Yeah, who'd been tested within the last 7 days? Raise your hand.
No one. Most girls only get tested. I've had some pretty serious conversations with some female friends where I'm like, come on, okay, whatever. I don't want to throw anybody's dirty laundry out there, but obviously as a professional athlete, I get tested quite a bit. And so anyways, we were talking about that when you told me the story that there was a guy that came in there that is currently married to a currently employed professional prostitute. What's the correct term? What is the PC term I can...
Well, prostitute is a proper term.
Right.
Courtesan is kind of a nod to the Victorian era.
So if you're going to marry a hooker and she's still working as a hooker, that I don't get. That would be like I said, it'd be like your car is also a rental car. Yeah. You go out in the driveway to go grab it, and it's like, oh man, the kids took it out for a spin, the neighbors, and then when you get it back, it's not their car. They just rented it, and they gave it some money. Who knows what they've done to the car and, like what condition that car's going to be in.
And no matter how much of a state of denial you try to be in, you can't take your eyes off that odometer as you're driving down the road. It's got the high mileage on it.
No, you go get in the seat and all of a sudden the seat's a little like bigger than the last time you put it in. You're like, you're wondering,
the seat is...
How big was the last guy that sat in here?
Yeah, this seat is further back than it normally is when my feet can't reach the gas pedal.
Do you just walk away from it when they high tower it? Do you remember the movie Police Academy?
Yeah.
And the one, the ex-football player?
Bubba Smith,
Bubba
right?
Smith, right? He was like high tower.
That's right, yeah.
So he can't fit in the police car, so he just rips the front seat out. So you see that and you're just like, oh, man. Like, no, don't worry about it. It wasn't one guy. It was like a whole basketball team and a football team that showed up.
Right. Well, you definitely have to be secure in your manhood, Dude,
you need counseling if you're okay with that. There's no security. Yeah. I'm secure in my manhood. Well, there's no way I could be married to, like when I hear professional, like sometimes you'll watch interviews, and stuff of people in the adult industry that are married, and they're each other, they still do that, and they're like, oh, we're just real comfortable with our sexuality and confident. I'm like, man, there is something wrong with you. That's just not natural. I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. Like, I'm a pretty confident guy. I'm not confident enough to share my wife with people.
Well, I'll tell you, the two kinds of relationships, be they marriages or long-term boyfriend relationships or whatever, that I think actually have a shot of working in that business, it's two very specific types. It's either one, a guy that just kind of wants to be taken care of, kind of like the stoner boyfriend who is just going to sit home, play PlayStation all day, and
I can see that.
Wants everything paid for.
No motivation, no drive, just, hey.
Yeah. He basically is like the male version of the trophy wife.
I get it.
He's now the deal is
you painted a really big picture. I can see the guy on the couch.
Yeah.
Honey coming home. You're like, oh, I just had a rough day. Go grab me the ice packs from the fridge.
Right. He fully expects to be taken care of, and as the lady, you're paying for everything, and that's the trade-off because you're getting a guy who's not going to give you any hassle about it. So that's one scenario.
And everything you just named about that guy, besides the fact that he's okay with other dudes banging his girl, is very unmasculine in my opinion.
No, it's true.
Some guy sits there and lets a woman take care of him, and he's going to let her pay for everything. And, that just, sit on a couch, no drive. Pretty much if you wanted to put a checklist on things that I say that make you not a man, you just nailed them all.
He does not know the meaning of the word chivalry.
No,
definitely not.
No manliness about that individual.
Now, the second type, I think, that can have a successful relationship in the legal sex business from the male perspective is the swinger. The cuckold, the guy who actually is sexually aroused. Yeah.
You just taught me a new word.
Oh, you don't know this term cuckold?
No, what the hell is a cuckold?
So cuckold
Tell me, do you know what this Okay, good. I'm not the only one.
Yeah, Angela's feigning
okay, good. I'm like, wait a minute. Do I sound like a retard that I don't know?
No. Cuckold, now I'm going to have to explain how I know it. Cuckold is what it is. That is an actual, just not slang, it's an actual term for someone. It's typically male, but I guess it could be female as well. Someone who is sexually aroused by watching their partner be with someone else, and probably even more so than that, enjoys the sort of humiliation of it. So in other words, like there's a whole genre of porn called cuckold porn, and the idea would be like my wife or girlfriend or whoever would be with a guy, like some male porn star or something, and I'm over in the corner watching.
I've watched my share of pornography, just like any other red-blooded American. And I've never seen a category on Pornhub called cuckold.
Well,
am I missing something?
Yes, because you just hadn't typed it in the search engine.
Oh, so I could type it in because they give you the little thing, girl on girl, two girls, one guy. I usually stop right there. Like I know there's other stuff beyond that, but I don't pay attention.
Yeah. Well, you need to dig a little deeper into the search engine. There is what you need to do, because what it is. So there'll be a voyeuristic element to it, like the guy is enjoying watching two people. But more specifically than that, he's enjoying watching his partner, with another guy. And here's the real coup de grace. He likes the girl basically telling him how he doesn't measure up.
Shut up.
Yeah, for real. Like there's a whole verbal humiliation side.
I now realize that one time earlier in my life, I thought I was getting set up to get mugged. I had a woman and a man approach me with this prospect of being with his woman.
Yeah.
And I looked at them like, no way in hell, because I didn't think that was even conceivable. My mind goes, yeah, buddy. You're gonna get my clothes off in the room. Either you're gonna hurt me. Something's gonna come. Oh, that's kind of funny usage of that word. Anyways, you're gonna catch me with my pants down, but you're literally gonna get me to get my pants down.
Yeah.
And, this was when I was 21 years old. I was out drinking with friends, and this older couple came up to me. I mean, older, and she was in her late 20s, he was in his early 30s, and they were even offering to pay me. And obviously at 21, I didn't have a lot of money, and I was like, but the stipulation was that he was going to be in the room, and I'm like, no way, I'm going to get stabbed, shot, robbed, something. Like I have nothing, so I'm not dressed nice, so I can't imagine where this is going. But in my mind, I thought it was a setup for a mugging. I'm like, yeah, go find the next idiot, dude. Get out of here.
Yeah, no,
but this is a real thing.
Yeah, and imagine and.
That's
right, Angela. Well, we missed this opportunity, and imagine that was at 21. Imagine
the girl. She was okay. I didn't miss out on much.
And that was at 21. Imagine what he could charge him now if he told him that while he was banging the guy's wife, he would wear the UFC championship belt.
Yeah. I don't know that. Yeah. No.
Hang on. Wait a minute.
You got me speechless, man.
On. Let's don't poo-poo this idea just yet. I'm imagining
a little side business. I'm in need of work for the next 2 years.
I'm imagining. We haven't negotiated fees yet. Let's see what we can get for this before we look a gift horse in the mouth. Okay.
Yeah, except for Mrs. Meir might have something to say about this whole situation.
Well, but I don't know. She might. I could see
put
her
enough money out there
first. But yeah. She may be the biggest proponent of this before we're all said and done. That is a thing, and I'll tell you, it's funny you mentioned getting that offer, because I'll tell you who else I know gets that offer a lot is my friend and your hero, Ron Jeremy. Ron Jeremy gets that, who I just saw last week, by the way. He was here in Las Vegas, and I told him he's got to come do our podcast. So
cool.
He'll do it. He'll do it next time he's here in Vegas. But he gets that offer quite a bit. Like some guy will be like, yeah, I'll just sit on the end of the bed. I just want to watch, bang my wife, and that's a thing. It sure is a thing.
And
Cuckold.
knowing from what I know about Ron,
Mm-hmm.
he has no apprehension about getting robbed or shot or killed. He jumps right into that.
Oh yeah. He's Ron is he's like a real Roman. I mean, when in terms of just excess everything all the time right now. Now he's another straight edge guy. Does not drink, no drugs, nothing like that. But he cannot get enough sex and he cannot get enough food. And he loves both equally. He might love food just a little bit more, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I never knew before right now that was a thing.
Yeah. See, that's not only do our listeners learn from each phone booth fighting episode, you learn things.
I have. I've become
learned
enlightened.
things.
I've realized that there's a whole area of men that need psychological help.
For sure. So, that being said, I believe that those are the two kinds of relationships that if you're going to be married to a current legal prostitute, legal or illegal, I guess for that matter, but legal for purposes of this conversation, those are the two kinds of relationships that are going to succeed. Now, I will tell you my personal opinion about it. If it were me, and I'll just I can go ahead and tell you right now, if you couldn't pick this up from meeting my Jennifer, my girlfriend Jennifer, has never worked as a prostitute. So her chosen profession is hairstyling, which is a lot less hands-on. You're at least outside of the follicle realm. There's a lot of contact with the hair itself, but nothing really below that. If you're working at a reputable hair salon,
She's not doing any Brazilian waxing.
Nothing like that. No, nothing like that. So, but I can tell you that from my insider's perspective, spending the hours that I do at the brothel, I think if it were me in that relationship, my challenge would be this. The physical, the high mileage aspect of it isn't exactly tantalizing. But what I would worry about more than that, it's not the actual act of sex as much as it is the act that you're having to put on. So in other words, if you're really going to make money in that business, and you can make a lot of money on the legal side of that
sex
business.
Sells. $1 billion business.
Where these guys will start to spend, and I am not kidding you, mid six figures a year, a lot of them multiple years, consecutively. These guys will come in and spend that kind of money. I mean, I've seen guys spend seven figures in a year before, but it's nothing to see a guy come in and spend mid six figures year after year after year. But
it's cheaper than being married.
Well, and that's the thing, though. What happens is. Oh, I'm
going to get in trouble for that one. Good thing she doesn't listen to the show.
he becomes emotionally attached, and that's exactly what he's thinking. That's what he's feeling. It's like, hey, this is like my girlfriend. It's like a long distance relationship.
Real.
No, it's not. But once he suspends disbelief, he quits counting his money. You know what I mean? I mean, now the wallet just opens, and it's like,
so the girl has to be good at putting on that act,
right? And that's the part that scares me. Does that make sense? That's the part that actually would worry me more than
it'd be like
anything.
somebody, on a lesser level, being married to an actor.
Yes.
I could imagine, married to a woman who gets paid and she's able to cry on cue. We're having a conversation. It's like, well, was that real, or are you able to manipulate me because you can enter into character?
And not only cry on cue, but when she's telling you that you're the most wonderful man in the world, you're the best ever, then you question that. And I think that's the real trapping.
See, on a side note, going back to my history, how much is it, real quick, preface this statement with what I thought it was, but maybe I can ask you, for someone to go and spend an hour to have sex, nothing crazy, not getting hung up on the wall, or, I don't know, none of the nutty stuff, but just normal sexual experience.
Not your whole autoerotic asphyxiation
I don't want to
thing
get beat,
that you
choked.
love. Yeah.
Nothing stuck up any parts of my body. You don't have to dress up anyway. But just a normal, vanilla sexual experience with one of these ladies. What would that run you?
Okay. So it is going to be, you could do that as cheaply It depends on the lady.
Let's just say as cheap as I want to do it.
No, I know, but one thing you have to understand is the house doesn't have set prices. Each girl negotiates her own price.
I thought it was a set price.
So depending on the lady, just like that car lot we were talking about, there's
It's cheaper to rent a Prius than it is to go get the new Corvette.
Exactly. Okay. So depending on who you're talking to and what you're going for, I mean that can be as cheap as $500. And,
for the hour.
Yeah, and now the thing about that is half the money goes to the house.
Okay.
So half of everything is going to the house. So when you're negotiating with that lady, you're really she's only getting half of whatever she's negotiating.
Okay, so in essence, if I had $600 in my pocket and I walked through that front door, I could have sex.
Oh yeah.
Okay. It goes on to what? So I remember. For people that don't know, when I first, I think I just turned 22 because I was training with the general manager at the Sprint Rhino. That was when 9/11 happened. I was working at the station casinos, and they had to let off a lot of people because obviously tourism took a big dive.
Yeah.
And so I got stuck on call there for a little while, and so worked very little. So he said, hey, do you want to work security and be be a bouncer, a host, is a term that we'd call it. And so for many years, all the way up until after even I was a champion, I worked there. It was good money, not dangerous. Never had anybody shoot at me or anything crazy like that. It was a way of providing an income for my family besides fighting, which at the time I wasn't making that kind of money that I may have made of the later part of my career. And so I remember sitting there and looking around, and I have never in my life ever paid for anything from a woman. I guess you can make a joke that inadvertently I've paid because I'm married, I've gone on dates. So in essence, yes, I've paid an extraordinarily large amount of money, especially for one woman in particular.
But well worth it.
Well worth it.
Mrs.
Mira is very expensive. In fact, if we broke down how much I probably get for how much money I've put out to how many times, we've had, been intimate together, she's a lot more expensive than the $500. I went ahead and I picked up the Maserati of the thing.
You get what you pay for.
Right. So that being said, I remember sitting there, and you're watching people do lap dances and stuff, and it came up like, some guy from out of town, it's like, oh man, so I mean, you guys get like free lap dances for working here? And I'm like, nah, man, I don't. I'm sitting there watching a lap dance, and I got to be honest with you, I never got it. I never sat there and understood. I'm like, man, hey, hanging out with a bunch of girls with their tops off, drinking beer and, having fun with a bunch of guys, bachelor party, I get that. That part seems fun to me as far as like, hey, people are coming around, we're all having company, it's the atmosphere, we're partying, that's cool. But to be that guy that comes in by himself, goes off in the corner and pays for a girl to grind on his leg, I'm like, wait a minute, so you're going to pay, like, say you go in the VIP room at the time when I worked at the Rhino, it's like $400 an hour. Plus you had to buy drinks and alcohol, so the club got its, if you want to come in here and use this, you got to buy, it's like a 2-drink minimum. And the drinks, it's like, an ungodly amount of money, $12 for a bottle of water, a ridiculous amount. So I just sat there and like, man, if someone would have came with me with a business proposition and go, Frank, we're going to open up a club where guys for 3 minutes and can pay a girl $20 and have her dance in front of them. Like, so like, is that the precursor to where you pick the girl out, then you go in the back? No. Is sex going to happen? Like, well, there will be at times because of the chemistry, certain guys, certain girls, it could occur where a girl's going to leave with a guy, she'll give her number. The club, because of, anti-prostitution laws, we're going to try to stop it. But, once she leaves and goes home, who she meets up with later on, we can't control. And 3,000 guys might come through the front door tonight. 5 of them might meet up with girls, later on and have that kind of thing. I'm like, so sex is basically going to be, we're talking, 1% of 1%, right? Guys are going to pay for that? Yeah. $400 an hour. Wait a minute. They could jump in their car and drive up to drive
that's what I'm
45
saying.
Minutes away.
Come see me.
Pay $500, $600 and guarantee they're going to have sex.
Yep.
But they're going to spend thousands of dollars in here with the potential that they might have sex? Yeah. Well, that's dumb, dude. That's never going to work.
Yeah.
You're like, why would a guy pay for that? And that's why I'm probably not a very rich businessman. Because
Well,
I didn't see the potential in that.
Yeah, you left out one key detail, though, and it's that, but Frank, these guys, once they, once their hormones start, the testosterone starts flowing, these girls are going to convince them that they really want to have sex with them.
And poor guys believe it.
Yeah, they just can't. But boy, if it wasn't for this pesky policy we had at this club, boy, I should, be paying to grind all over you. That's the That's the mindset.
You're right, because it's funny, because I always tell people, working in there, I was always behind the curtain. I never was in front.
Yes,
so I really got a perspective.
That's right.
I go to the back and hear what they talk about the customers.
Yep.
I get to hear what they're saying about the guys, how
As
they
do
smell,
I.
how much of an idiot they are.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this guy bought this Lona Bull. He's going to give me this, and that. I mean, I remember a couple times girls got in trouble because guys would give them here's $2,000 or $3,000. Pay off the back, do whatever you got to do. I'll meet you. And they go to the back, wait a half hour. What are you going to do? Call the police on them?
Yeah.
I gave this girl money to go have sex with me in the hotel, and she never met me. Like, what do you?
Again, a point in my favor, because at our place, if you give the girl $2,000 or $3,000 and tell her you're going to meet her for sex, and she doesn't show up and fuck you, you have legal recourse.
Wow, you can actually call the police.
Yeah, you can call the police, and you can also write an unflattering Yelp review.
There you go. Well, it's funny because we had one of the what was it? The tough shows ended. Dana's a cool guy. He takes the guys out to go eat, and then afterwards, they take him to the Rhino afterwards. Gives everybody a bunch of tokens and hanging out. So I'm there. We're sitting out around because I'm one of the coaches and stuff. So I'm making my appearance, and I'm just counting down the time. Take off and get home, and and so I'm sitting there and I'm like talking to James Horn, my other training partner, who works in the industry. And at the time, one of the young ladies walked up to me and was like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And I was just having a conversation like a nerd about different transitions from jiu-jitsu and fighting, and so the girl said something to me really just like, this hurt. It was something, just a really cheesy pickup line. Not that she was picking me up. She was just trying to open up the door to get me to want to pay for lap dance. I got treated like a mark, basically.
Yes,
All of a sudden I realized that I'm looking at her like, oh my God, you think I'm a customer? No. You got to go away. Stop wasting your time. I'm not going to pay you anything. Like this whole fake act that you have going right now. Get out of here. No way. I'm not buying this.
No, you're absolutely right about looking behind the curtain. And I see that too, because for me, and I'm sure some guys it wouldn't matter to, but it's like, for me, even if we're not entering into a long-term relationship or whatever, I have to, I guess if I know too much about you personally and what I know personally is not good. I guess in other words, maybe you're going through a really tough time. Maybe you're really emotional that day. You're hiding your emotions because you're at work. But I know that in reality, you're sad, or you've got a lot on your mind, or whatever. I can't suspend disbelief at that point. I can't be like, oh well, but you want to be with me. I see past your game face, which I guess is kind of what you're saying. And I actually find that in that business, even as at times being a single person, that eliminates almost everybody for me, because almost everybody has something going on. Could you imagine trying to be single now? Well, yeah. I mean, I had to imagine it not too terribly long ago. Within, if I go back further than a couple of years.
Well, that's true. I guess I don't think about that.
But
I mean, from what I see of you and Jen, you're not going to be single anytime soon.
No. We're
until you get too old and she turns you in for a younger model. But
yeah. See, I'm hoping I timed it just right. It's interesting. Quick segue, but I've thought about that, and because my girlfriend is considerably younger than me, but not by so much that by the time I'm reaching the end of my natural life expectancy, at that, like if I can make it to 80, she'll be right there close to senior citizen age, if that makes sense. So, I mean, she could still go on like our time and probably like be a hot commodity on there, but it's not like she's going to be 40. It's not like she's Anna Nicole Smith and I'm J. Howard Marshall.
There you go.
It's not that bad.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, but I think about that too sometimes. I
Yeah.
go around there, especially now of lately, my life's been kind of turned upside down.
Yeah.
You go through and you count your blessings type situation. And
Yeah.
I sit there and go, at times being married with kids, like anybody who has a family, that comes with a lot of responsibilities. I don't have to, it isn't like I'm just looking out for myself. Every decision and act that I do, my children and my wife are going to bear the consequences of those actions.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, the opposite side of that is to be single. I don't even know if I've been together with my wife since I was 22 years of age.
Yeah.
Now being 36, if all of a sudden I became single, I don't know. Because I have friends that are single that are my age, and I hear their stories, and single life kind of sucks. To be honest with you, I wouldn't trade places with them. They might have a better Friday night story than I have, as far as every now and then. But consistently, my life is being a married man with children. My life's better. I try not to say that to people too often, but I think most people aspire to be in a relationship with someone they love and they care for, and have a family. I think that just living a life of just random women and running around. On the surface, it might sound kind of cool, and I'm sure that, hey, there's a few cool stories in there that it's like, my buddies will tell me a story. I'm like, man, that is really cool. Give each other a high five. I might live vicariously through them for about 5 minutes, and then that's about it. And I'm like, so when that was over with, you went home and were by yourself, and you woke up the next day by yourself, and and then not even just that, but then they have to go through all, like we're talking about, that garbage of that. No one puts on their true face. Everybody wears masks when you first meet them. They put their best foot forward, and it's like you don't even know who people are. And that's a good thing that my wife and I she knows the worst aspects of me. I know the worst parts of her, and I know the best parts, and there is no having to fake it to each other. There is no pretending I'm someone I'm not.
Yeah.
I can just be myself, and and I get to be with somebody else that I don't know. I guess that's the reason why. Long about way of saying I don't know. Being single would be rough because of just having to play that game.
Do you think it helped you? I know I've never asked you this before, and I've never really thought about it this way, but I have so you have a similarity to another good friend of mine, a guy named Chan Kinchla, who is he's the guitar player in Blues Traveler. You know the band Blues Traveler?
Yeah.
Okay, Hook and Run Around, their hits. So that band was together in high school. They all went to high school together. So it's the only thing they've ever really done professionally. They've been in a band that started out rehearsing in a garage and ended up with platinum records, but it's the same guys together their whole lives, right? And your career is kind of the same way. So when you talk about like being with your wife, from 22 years of age on, at that point you're already a professional fighter. You're just launching your career, right?
Yeah,
they're more or less simultaneous.
Very
pretty close.
Simultaneous.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
My wife and I started dating after my first fight with the UFC.
Okay,
so she was there and watched my second fight with the UFC.
Right. Okay, so some might look at it and say, oh, is it tough because you start out, you're locked into that relationship at a very young age, and then fame comes along and all the rest of that, money comes along, and you were never a single guy with all that. You were a married guy. On the one hand, somebody might look at it that way, but I'm also thinking that might be an advantage, because that way you never had to worry that the person that was with you was just with you because you were rich or you were famous or all those things. And imagine now,
when my wife got with me, I drove a Chevy Lumina, a 95 in 2002.
Yeah.
That the window, the driver's side window didn't roll down, and there was no air conditioning in the car. And we live in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And so
that's rough on the first date.
Yeah. And when she met me, I wore Dan skin.
Could you roll the windows up? Huh?
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
And
Hold on, we're almost to the restaurant.
I don't think I even owned a pair of tennis shoes. I just wore flip-flops because, training jiu-jitsu and stuff at the time, I wore sweatpants, or I even had a pair of, I didn't realize until she notified me that those were women pants, but Dan skin,
Oh, yeah.
But they were gray, loose gym pants type. I thought they were comfortable. They worked for me.
Yeah.
In fact, when we first started dating, she wanted to go out to a club, and I had a suit to wear to work at the Rhino, but she's like, oh, we're going to go out. We had to actually go shopping because I didn't own a button-up shirt.
Aw. If you think about it, you never once had to worry that somebody was feigning interest in you, talking to you, chatting you up, going out with you, whatever, because of what you had or a level of fame that you had. Never had to worry about it once.
In fact, my Jennifer, she'll tell you when she first started finding out what I did, and I think I used the word professional fighter, and that didn't click. But I was like, yeah, I'm in the UFC. But I mean, remember, this is back in 2002. So she told a couple of her girlfriends, like, oh, yeah, the bouncer. Yeah, I guess his hobby is Tybo. She thought I was basically Billy Blanks.
Yeah.
She had no clue. And that's why I invited her to watch one of the fights so that she would watch, and she came there and showed up. And she's like, people buy tickets to watch you do this?
Yeah, she was imagining you leading an aerobics class with the headset on.
Then she watched me go fight Pete Williams.
Yeah.
And that's actually when I got the phone call and conversation that she wanted to break up with me because she thought that I was going to be a violent human being, and she has a kid, and how can, this isn't going to work out. And I was like, okay, can we just meet up real quick so we can have this conversation in person?
And then you turned on the charm.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got real violent. No, I was like, you see what I did to him? You think you're leaving me? I will find you.
And all these years later, here we are still together. And
marriage built upon physical threats.
That's right. All right. Well, there's a little relationship advice segment for you here on Phone Booth Fighting. Send your relationship questions to Phone Booth Fighting either on Instagram at Phone Booth Fighting or our Facebook page, facebook.com/Phone Booth Fighting. We're about due for another Ask Mrs. Mir segment. I was going to tell you, I saw we've done this a couple times before where Mrs. Mir comes on and answers questions and dispenses advice. And somebody posted on our Facebook page the other day that they particularly enjoy those segments.
Okay.
So we'll keep those
I particularly am nervous about those sections.
Yes, especially as time goes on.
I said, if anybody of my wife ever wanted to go against me, if I was ever on trial for anything and the prosecutor says, we're calling our next witness, it's Mrs. Mir, I'm like, oh, God, no. Please, no.
That's right.
If anybody knows my deep, darkest secrets, it's her.
That's why you got to leave no witnesses.
Yes. Well, the good thing, isn't there a law, though, that you can't have your wife can't testify against you?
Well, there is a law, but that's her not being willing to testify against you. There's not a law that says you can keep her from
testifying. Yeah, but go back to what I said earlier about the physical threats. No, I'm just kidding. No, all our friends know if the police show up to the front door now, and then the neighbors walk out and say, hey, the cops showed up at the mayor's residence, they'll be like, oh, is Frank okay? Because if they know Jen and they know me, if someone's getting beat in our relationship, it's going to be me.
I mentioned our new logo. We got to give some credit, Frank, to Ross Chester, a guy over in England who runs Boss Creations. He's the guy who did the new cartoon logo for us, where you have me in the rear naked choke, and I look like I'm about 4 feet tall standing next to you in the gi. But he did an awesome job of it. Didn't you like that?
No, I did. Very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's you can check him out on Instagram at boss_creations, and he spells it BOS. That's boss_creations, BOS on Instagram. You can see a lot of the work he did. He designed Gary Tonon's rash guard, who we just saw fight at EBI this past weekend. His website is also bosboss-co.co.uk. So check out his work. If you got a sketch or rendering you need done or anything like that, he is the guy. I cannot recommend him highly enough after the job that he did for us. All right, let's recap the media tour from this past weekend, Frank, because I talked to you. I have to say, I know I told you this privately, but I really admired your dedication to what we did this past weekend, because I had a feeling it would be important and it could pay off and it would be time well spent. And it was one thing to tell you we should do it about 6 weeks before we did. Right. But when the time came around, I thought, well, I don't know how you're going to like being cramped up in a car with me and all that kind of stuff. But first of all, I had a great time doing it.
Yeah,
with
me
you.
too.
It was a lot
Sitting
of
in the
fun.
Prius wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't like I had to drive.
Yeah, that's right. We had a lot of fun, but I thought it couldn't have gone better in terms of the appearances we did. We had a great time doing Eddie Bravo Invitational, the 6th edition. By the way, the 7th edition is now set for, I believe it's July 16th at the Orpheum Theater back in Los Angeles. I just was talking to Eddie via text the last few days, and he was inviting us back out, thanking us for coming, and said he definitely wanted to have us out there again in July, so we'd love to make that. You did Fighter and the Kid with Brendan Schaub and Brian Callen. That episode went gangbusters. That episode, I mean, I made a big deal at the start of the show about us having the privilege of being ranked number 6 on iTunes Sports Podcasts right now, and a sincere thank you to all the Phone Booth Fighting listeners who have put us there. We really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
But,
did you say that night, though, it was even ranked, that particular show as top 3?
Yeah, that's what I was getting to, was their show. The show you did with them, actually today, sat at number 3 on all episodes of sports podcasts, and number 24 over all podcast episodes on iTunes.
No kidding. I
Yeah.
didn't know the 24 part. That's
Yeah,
pretty
I mean,
unbelievable.
it's a very impressive number. And so they do an awesome show. Obviously, they're going to be a highly rated podcast anytime they crack the mics, but something about having you as a guest seemed to spike interest. So nice job on that, Frank. And then also, Joey Diaz had us on the Church of What's Happening Now, had both of us on that night. We had a great time with him. And, you know, Joey is a wild ride.
Yeah, that was interesting.
There is no prepping for Joey. There's
Nope.
just, he's going to sit down and go, and you don't know what direction he's going to hit. Like,
I liked it. It was, you know.
Oh, it's fantastic. No, to me, he's like an eccentric uncle, you know, that you look forward to seeing at the holidays.
I think I've had some uncles like that.
He's going to just sit there and tell some stories. But, like, there was one point in that episode, and I think our episode was about 2 hours long, that whole thing he got into about what would happen if you were coming out of the 7-Eleven and the guy at the red box tried to knock you unconscious. And Jennifer and I were listening to that this last night, and it was like, good God. Like, it was just a apocalyptic scenario he was painting. You know, he's like, let me tell you something, Frank Mayer. A motherfucker standing at the red box cracks you on your head, you're dead. In today's world, you're dead. You don't know what hit you. A motherfucker could flip you over,
Holy shit, man.
fuck you in your ass, light your asshole on fire.
That is a phenomenal impression. I'm glad you didn't break that out until right now. This is my genuine reaction. Holy shit, that was unbelievable.
Thanks.
I didn't know you were able to do that voice like that.
Only select people.
Well, that one you nailed. Holy cow, man. Wow.
Thanks, man. All right. Well, you know what? If you want to hear the real thing and compare, download, I believe the episode, well, I know the episode was posted on Tuesday. Joey Diaz, the Church of What's Happening Now, him and his great producer, Lee Syatt, had us on. We really appreciate him doing it. And if that's not enough, Phone Booth Fighting's mainstream media exposure week rolls on, because today, as we post, Frank, on this day, Friday, you are the guest on Chael Sonnen's You're Welcome podcast. You just taped that today. How'd that go? I haven't heard it yet, so I'm looking forward to downloading it in the morning.
Chael's, I always enjoy speaking with him, I don't think he pulls any punches. He asks all the questions, and so I think that, makes it to where the fans are entertained. He goes through and everything he talks about, everything from fighting career to USADA to what I'm going to do now and go on to the future. He was very, candid, and it was a very open conversation.
Okay, yeah, that's good, because I knew you were telling me he had talked about the USADA stuff with you, and that's good because Chael has had his own experience, and so I think he's got a very unique perspective on that. And I was quick to point this out last week, and I want to do it again just because I know we've got so many new listeners. But if there were people that were hearing any of the media appearances and they were thinking, well, Frank didn't, he wasn't talking about what happened with USADA on those shows. You were certainly willing to. They just didn't bring it up for whatever reason. But if you want to hear, obviously, Chael and you talked about it on the episode that's posted today, but if you really want to hear the whole story, what you need to do is just go back about 3 episodes of Phone Booth Fighting. You'll see it's titled Frank Mir Discusses USADA Test. And that was the episode just a few weeks back where you and I sat down right here on this very patio just hours after the news had come in. You'd gotten the phone call, and we went through the whole thing. Real emotional roller coaster ride. It's about an hour and 10 minutes of unedited audio, not one single edit in it. So you're going to hear it exactly as the conversation happened, exactly as I experienced. And I asked Frank every question under the sun I could think of about the situation, and it's pretty much all there. So just want to let everybody know that, because if they think that content doesn't exist out there, as a matter of fact, it does, and it's right there in the Phone Booth Fighting podcast feed. All right. Before we wrap up here, Frank, I just want to make a quick note of some of the reviews that have been coming in on our Phone Booth Fighting iTunes page. Because, we've been asking people to go to the page, look up Phone Booth Fighting in iTunes, and leave a 5, click the 5 stars, give us a 5-star review if you can, and if you feel it's warranted. And then also, if you have a moment, leave a comment, and we'll read some comments on the air.
The low-star ones, as long as you articulate what we can do to improve.
There you go. Well, you know what? It's funny because we did get one. I got to read you this review. This guy, there's 25 reviews on there right now, and 24 of them are 5 stars. We got one 4-star review.
Okay.
All right.
What do we need to improve?
Okay, so this guy says, and you can figure out which one of us he's talking about. It's titled "Ease Up on the Radio Voice" by Ranger
But
Lump.
I've been practicing so hard at it. No.
I think he's talking about me. He says, "I love the podcast and enjoy the commentary. Please chill on the announcer voice. It's almost cringeworthy." But here's the thing. He doesn't realize this is my voice.
This is exactly how you talk.
Yeah. Could you imagine you're in a car with me for 4.5 hours driving from L.A. to Las Vegas, and you're not sleeping. This is the voice you're hearing the
This is
entire
the voice.
time.
Well, even in the hotel room when, we...
Even that?
That night we stayed up till 2 or 3 in the morning exchanging ideas. You were talking, and that's kind of the same voice. I'd have been kind of a little off if you had... if you do have a different voice, you do a great job of staying in character.
This is all I got. What about when the alarm went off the next morning? Hey, it's 10 minutes after the hour. Frank Mir, time to get up and go. We got to get to the Fighter and the Kids studio. It's going to be about 35 minutes with traffic, so we got to get going. Traffic, yeah, it's not quite that bad. But no, it is. But you know what? You
do just have a good voice, because a couple of my friends and a couple of the girls all talk about how your voice sounds, and you got a good voice. I like it, Yeah,
well, I guess I still got it, At least as long as I'm talking to him over the phone. When I show up in person, it probably gets a little disappointing. But it's funny. My grandmother has told stories about my grandmother who, is in her late 80s. By the way, she's got a birthday coming up. You know how I know she has a birthday coming up? Because Frank Mir has a birthday coming up, and their birthdays are on the same day. So I got to remember to make you both a card on that day. But, my grandma's in her late 80s now, and she listened to the radio like back in the days of radio before television, you know. Yeah. And so you would listen to dramas on the radio, just like you watch them on television now. There would be like these actual detective dramas and stuff like that on the radio.
I've seen it just because of watching movies and stuff, obviously.
And she said that she was as a little girl, she would be disappointed a lot because you could write off for autographed pictures of the people on the radio. And she said, they always had these voices, these very strong voices. And she said, you get this picture and it'd be like this little pipsqueak guy, who had that big voice.
I don't know what they didn't do, because they do it in reverse. You had a guy with a great physique. Mm-hmm. They do voiceovers on, actors back in the day. In fact, I heard that like one of Arnold's first movies or something, they thought his accent was too strong, so they had a voiceover. Yeah. So you think they could have did like, what is it, a picture over? They could have just had some kind of male model that, some Adonis of a guy, and just send that picture. And like, that way, just why kill the fantasy? I mean, especially back then, what were the chances that you were going to run into said voice at the local restaurant?
Well, especially before the days of the internet, and there wasn't even streaming video. I mean, there wasn't even really video or anything.
There was no way to do a fact check. I mean, up until the late 90s, I mean, until the internet really took on,
Yeah.
People could lie about being a Congressional Medal of Honor winner.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I mean,
I was doing that up until last year, and I got busted. But yeah.
Nowadays, you can't say anything.
Yeah.
Because,
No.
I mean, I've sit there and people go, I have so many fights. You just pull out your phone and
Yeah.
you hit the old Google and you can confirm or deny real quick on any kind of accomplishments anybody claims to have.
Here's a couple of the 5-star reviews on iTunes, Frank. This one from Lord Pretty Flacco Jody. They say, Frank, you big bad mother. Keep on keeping on. Love the podcast. I am a new subscriber, and you are now in the rotation, and I'll be all caught up soon. After hearing you on Fighter and the Kid and Joey's podcast, I had to check it out. Richard is funny and seems like a good combo for you. I wish you guys great success with the pod. Thanks for that. Here is one from GBus92570. He said, heard about this podcast on The Fighter and the Kid. I'm on the 3rd episode. There's a lot of info about MMA breakdown. Frank speaks very calm and clear and makes listening enjoyable, unlike other podcasts where they speak over each other. Yeah, we don't have too much of a problem with that. We seem to be pretty good about the chemistry. How about this from Podcast Aficionado 8? He said, this is a pleasant addition to my weekly jiu-jitsu and MMA content. These guys are clearly dedicated to releasing content. It's entertaining, and I'll be recommending to all the jiu-jitsu guys, keep it up. We appreciate that. And one more from TMP iOS. That's his username. He says, it's always fascinating to listen to detailed descriptions of the intricacies of MMA fighting from a legend in the sport. Well, thank you for those kind words. All right, I think he means you. I think that one
okay.
might.
I thought the radio voice was me, so I can see how we can mix this up.
Intricacies from a legend in this. Yeah, I think that one was just
that might have been
specifically
me.
you. That's okay, because the other ones gave me some credit, so thanks. All right, so with that being said, we're going to put a wrap on this one, guys. I want to remind you one more time to tell a friend. That's honestly. Frank, today I was emailing listeners back through our Phone Booth Fighting Facebook page and thanking them, individually for listening. But that's something I always just tell people. I always just say, if there's just one thing you can do for us, tell a friend and spread the word. And that's how we're going to gain listeners. And obviously that's how we're doing it. And I know that, I'm on there messaging and posting and things like that. But, I mean, you have been genuinely blown away by the response that we've gotten from this. And when I hit you with these numbers, you're like, holy cow.
Yeah, I have. The fact that as many people that are paying attention as that we have already at this point surpasses anything I thought we would have accomplished when we first started this off. No clue that it would have this kind of following. And it's very flattering to know that that something we have to say or talk about is given consideration, and people are interested in hearing what we have to talk about.
You know what I think is cool about? Tell me if you felt this. Like, to me, when you start seeing that kind of response. When we do this, we're in kind of a solitary situation. I mean, it's you and me and our, on your back porch, and our families are around. We're not completely alone, but it's not like there's a crowd of thousands.
No.
We get Demetrious Johnson on the phone like tonight. He joins the party, but I'm driving over here in my Prius with the road case. It's got our gear in the back and everything, and sometimes it'll feel like it's just a one-to-one operation, and in a lot of ways it is. We're driving back in the middle of the night from California from LA to Vegas. But when you see those numbers, it's like tonight I'm driving over and I'm thinking, I kind of got all these people with me, and as we sit here and talk, I'm kind of realizing that we're talking to all of them as we communicate. It
hit me the realization of just making sure that we it puts a little more pressure as far as doing a good job.
Yeah, totally.
And that's
it does,
why when, going through there and making sure that what we say still stays relevant and it's of interest.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's just no one wants to be just a flash in the pan.
No, I told your wife Jennifer. I said I'm stepping on the gas from here. I said this is going to be Frank's worst nightmare. I'm sure you'd hoped I'd just stop showing up by now, and now it's the contrary. we're gonna have more things that we have to do to bring quality content to.
Yeah, you got her
our
on board.
listeners.
I mean, she flew me out from Phoenix. We were there at my daughter's softball tournament. I missed the second day of it to make sure we went through our media stuff. So she didn't bat an eye at it. So.
It takes a village. We couldn't. You got your wife coordinating. She's our travel agent. I got my girlfriend taking over the Snapchat. Everybody's playing a role.
I'll pitch it in.
That's right. We appreciate it. It takes a village. All right, guys. Once again, follow us on social media. Phone Booth Fighting on Instagram. Phone Booth Fight on Twitter, and that aforementioned brand new Snapchat. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at the Frank Mir. You follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Richard Hunter. Subscribe to the podcast each and every week. It's in iTunes. It's in Stitcher. You can also get it right there at phoneboothfighting.com. Leave that 5-star review. Leave a comment. And above all else, please just tell a friend. And support our sponsors. Real Water. Get real at drinkrealwater.com. Also, Trent Cotney, TrentCotney.com, supporting fighters the world over. We couldn't do it without those guys either. So, for my co-host, the two-time UFC heavyweight champion Frank Mir, I'm Richard Hunter. We will see you right back here next week for another edition of Phone Booth Fighting.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they fought with expert timing. There were funky Chinamen from funky Chinatown. They were